Okay, so the second part of the video here is more to do with the frame joints. So I'm going to talk you through the different ones for frame. In our final project we need to make a frame up. We've done a mirror frame in the actual school itself, so a lot of these joints should be familiar to you. The one thing to remember with our frame joints is that we're normally trying to get things to sit flush with each other, so we don't want to have anything over here, so any sort of ridges or anything. That's the purpose of it. So it's thinking about the sizes and how we achieve that, maybe the tools we use to achieve that as well. So as we're going through the video there, try and think about it. I may well mention some tools that we maybe use to get things flat here, and again you should be thinking about that as you go forward in your exam. What tools did I use to maybe do this, you know, when it's talk about describe how you would cut the wood joint. You know, this is not cutting a wood joint video, but you should be thinking about that as we're looking at the joints themselves and the process you go through. Easiest way to do that is just think about, you know, if I gave you a piece of wood in class, think about how would you actually do it in class. What would be your starting point? What would you mark off first? What would you use my marking knife for? Then what are you going to do? You're going to use a saw, and then you're going to chisel, and then you're going to say, right, okay, now how do I get the depth of that joint the same? So think about that as we go through this this video describing the frame joints. There are more of them. You do need to remember the names of them all and be able to recognise them as well. Looks like quite a few joints to get through here with this. Some of them are the same as carcass, only the first couple. So the butt joint could also be used as a frame joint. It's, you know, we're just joining the ends of the wood together. Same going forward. If we go to the next one, which is our dowel joint, then the dowel joint could also be used for a frame as well. And again, it really just comes down to the application of what you're trying to do with what you're making. Is strength important or not? If strength is not an issue, then this could be a way to go forward with your design. And again, the problem with the dowel is making sure that we can get everything at 90 degrees and everything sitting flush across the tops of the material. And again, same with the glue here, just double check here that you remember this, marking the slot, cutting the slot down the length of the dowel to improve the glue, the action of the glue, to stop the air stopping the joint being pushed together easily. Normally you wouldn't have a problem if you're using a sash cramp, but it's what's recommended as you're actually manufacturing stuff. So as we go forward for the next ones, so now we're getting into the proper frame ones. This is our mitre joint. You've done one more complex in class. Thing with the mitre, it's cut at 45 degrees, so this angle there that I'm showing is 45 relative to the baseline there. Same on the other piece of wood. And then as we bring them together, we should have 90-degree angle in the corner here. Now I would use a band clamp to clamp this one up rather than sash cramps, because it's an awkward shape. Okay, so mitre 45 degrees. Halving joints. Now the thing with halving joints, halving means half the material. Okay, so we look at that. If that material there was a thickness of 20, we're looking at a depth of 10 millimeters on the joints. We cut it on both pieces of wood, hence why it's called a halving joint, and the finish should be flush across the surfaces. So again, we might use a hand router there to actually get the depth correct. Various variations of halving joints. So the first one there was on the corner. This one's going to create a cross halving. So looking at the picture up here, you can see there it's creating a frame in the doorway there, or a cabinet door. And again, we're looking for the surfaces to become flush. So work with your chisel to get the depth close to it, and then finish off with a hand router, and that way you get everything which should look attractive to the customer. You know, we certainly don't want lips or dips in anything there. So again, it's quite a hard thing to do, but it's well worth it in the end. The other one we can use a T-halving. So again, it's just thinking about shape and just looking. Again, we're taking from two pieces of material, and this time when we join these together, we will bring it together and you get the letter T. It's as simple as that. So again, the important things with these is the end grains. You will see the end grain on these, so you do need to make sure your joints are cut accurately to look neat and tidy at the end there. So again, chiselling down just above the line and then using the hand router. One which we've not done but will become familiar to us. We don't do dovetails in carcass, but we do a dovetail as a frame. So the angles here, we can mark this up using a template or a jig to give us a marking out, or we can measure the distances and actually mark it up ourselves. And again, we do the same on the opposite piece here. It's still a halving joint and it still fits exactly the same way, it's just the shape that's different. If I was cutting it, I'd probably cut the main one here exactly how I'd do normal ones, and then I would chisel back the way to remove that angle. But it's all about accuracy with the measurements on that one. We've done lots of mortise and tenon joints. We would use the mortise machine, but you will be required to cut all of these by hand in a final assessment. There is no machine work allowed. So again, with the tenon itself is normally 1/3 of the thickness of the wood. So if the wood was 18, the thickness of the tenon would be 6, so that's 1/3. And this one here is a stopped one, or a stub mortise and tenon, because it doesn't go all the way through, which the bonus there is that you have a nice neat finish on it. Okay, so you don't get to see what you've cut for the tenon itself. The other one that we have is the through mortise and tenon. So this end here, you can see there, you can see all the way through the material there, so it's important that we get the finish on your tenon accurate and neat, because your customer will see that. And that's a good selling point. If you're good at that, you can actually, you know, charge more money for a product that is a higher quality finish like this. The last one on the mortise and tenon is going to be our our haunched mortise and tenon. Now this is where we are doing a mortise and tenon at the end of the material, so we're at the end of the wood here. What we don't want, if we just cut a normal tenon and a normal mortise in here, this area would be removed, but this piece of wood would be able to come out dead easy. By putting this little slot in here, then when we push the material in together there, it prevents it from getting pulled out. You can see that I'm indicating with my little mouse there. So it prevents it getting taken out. So again, it's a really strong joint and good for tops of tables and stuff. And again, it's something which we've done, something which you've had some experience of. One thing you've not seen is the bridle joints. So a bridle joint is almost like here, it's almost like a tenon joint as such, but you notice there on the opposite half, this time we are taking all the material through. So this time we would mark, cut, saw down and remove all material, and that gives us a joint where you can see the edges on two corners. Now the bridle joint can also be in a slightly different method, so we get the T-bridle here. So this time we've removed the different materials, so again we're going to fit in here. It creates this T shape. It's just another way of creating a wood joint. This one would be a bit stronger than just a T halving, because we've got more material to glue, so more surface area where the glue will go on, making it a lot stronger.